Okay, we'll try this again. So, for those of you that got kicked off of the live video, I did as well. Welcome back. For those of you that are watching this as a replay, we got kicked out, so I had to start the video over. So, thank you for all of those of you who came back and are here with us live. If this is a replay, type replay below. And I'm so glad that you're here. I do need to start. Right now, I just remembered my husband is doing construction in the backyard. So let me put in my headset so you don't hear all of the machinery because it's some pretty heavy machinery. Okay, hopefully that will get rid of all the background noise of the construction in the background. So today we are talking about knees. My name is Laurel Dawn Houston and welcome to Monday Mapping. Today's body mapping card is knees. For those of you who have the body mapping deck, you may or may not have noticed that there are 2 knee cards in there. So knees are a lot about your connection with your higher power and how you are doing in your relationship to the universe and all that includes for you, your connection with other people as well. But today, your knees is more about your willingness to concede to authority, or if you're going into rebellion. So another way of looking at this is, are you in people pleasing and permission seeking, or are you in rebellion? So sometimes with our knees, we are looking for permission to do something, to be something, to try something. And we either feel like we don't have that permission, or we're going into rebellion and we're saying, I don't need permission from you. So the question that I would invite you to ask yourself is, do I really need permission? Or is today the day to rebel? Um, and I'm choosing my words carefully here because my goal with this is not to tell you how to think or feel, but just to let you know that you are allowed. And I use that word purposefully. With our knees, so many people have the mindset that they're not allowed, yet they don't actually know who will allow them to have what they want. So, for example, some people aren't allowed to be successful, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in marriage, in money, in health. We feel like we need permission from someone to be something that we previously weren't. So I want to tell why this happens. When you are a child and you walk into the kitchen and you're too short to reach the water, you have to ask for help, and we are then trained to ask for permission. So usually a 2-year-old will walk in and say, I want some milk. And then they'll be told, how do we ask for milk? Can I please have some milk? So then the 2-year-old will get trained to ask for their needs and wants to be met. Can I please have some milk? And this training doesn't just go away because now you're 40. So because it was pretty ingrained for years and years and years. Can I have some milk? Can I go play with a friend? Can I drive the car? Can I have some money? We were literally trained to ask permission for every aspect of our life. For all of our needs and wants to be met, we had to ask someone. And so permission seeking is something that is very ingrained in a lot of people. So then there's the other side of the coin, and those are the people pleasers. They never asked permission per se because they were very gifted at observation. And they very quickly learned, when the people around me who care for me are happier, I feel safer. So I will learn what makes everyone around me happy because then I feel safe. I get lost in the meantime, and then I hire mentors later on in life to help undo this programming. But that's where it started. And I need you to know that this isn't that there's something wrong or right or good or bad about you. It just is. We live in a society where children ask permission. And we also live in a society that we have learned, when people are happy, I feel safer. Let me know if this is making sense to you in the comments. And this may be a day that comments aren't showing up. I don't know yet. But if you are recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm a people pleaser, oh my gosh, I'm a permission seeker. A lot of you have heard the phrase people pleaser before, but some of you didn't actually know you weren't people pleasing, you were permission seeking. You were waiting for someone to say, sure, you can do that. Yeah. How many of you have tried and tried and tried to release weight, and yet you then have interactions with people who raised you or you've spent a lot of time with, and they've made comments on the fact that you're losing weight, and now you no longer feel like you have permission to do that? So you sabotage your workout habits, or you sabotage your eating plan. Um, that's not people pleasing, that's permission seeking. So as we grow up and we bounce between permission seeking and people pleasing, it affects our knees, because knees are our ability to bend to authority. Think about how many traditions and cultures are about people bowing, and you have to bend your knees in order to bow to someone else. And so when we used to be a people pleaser, or we used to be a permission seeker, and we haven't actually given ourselves to let go of those tendencies, we think we are now being a rebel, and it shows up in our knees. Um, and I want you to know you're not a rebel, you're just progressing. There comes a point when you can say, I am responsible for the decisions I make. I am responsible for my life and the outcome of it, and I don't need permission from anyone to live the life I want to live. So on the body mapping card for knees, it actually says, I have permission to blank. What do you feel like you need permission to have, to do, to be? Do you need permission to be healthy, to be wealthy, to be smart, to be strong, to be kind? You have permission. And so that is why I tell people you are allowed, because for so many of us, we weren't. We weren't allowed to be boisterous. We weren't allowed to be opinionated. We weren't allowed to have strong personalities. We weren't allowed to say no. And so this is really affecting your knees, which physiologically affects your ability to progress, to move forward, both emotionally and physically. When your knees hurt, you don't want to move, you don't want to progress. And so your knees are about your willingness to bend to authority, or in some cases, to stand up to it. Rebellion has its place. Are you aware of what place it has in your life? So I want to, this is a short video because I want you to watch this a couple of times and really let this sink in. If you are having knee problems and you feel like, no, I have a really good connection with my higher power, and I watched your other knee video and it just didn't feel like it fit, it's because this was what was going on. You're stuck in pop cycles. You go from perfectionism to overwhelm to procrastination. You do this because you are either people pleasing or permission seeking. Who do you think you need permission from? So find that. Who do you think you need permission from? And if you're like, I can't think of anyone, then just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm allowed to have, I'm allowed to be, I'm allowed to want blank. What is it you need permission for? Is it to gain more money? Is it to have a relationship that was more successful than the one that was modeled to you in your home? Do you now have permission to stay healthy? What are you now allowed to do that before you didn't think you were allowed? If you want your knees to stop aching, then you have to step into who you really are. Who were you told you're not allowed to be? May I share a story about this? Because I have been told over and over and over again by certain people in my life that I have a very strong personality. And they try to say it in kindness because they're hiding disdain. And I have laughed this off and said, well, I'd rather have a strong personality than the opposite, which is a weak personality or no personality. And yet this has been something that for years now I've been told, oh, she has a really strong personality. And what that programming was I'm not allowed to make you uncomfortable. And so I would try to joke about the fact that I do have strong opinions and I do have firm boundaries. And then one day I went, I'm allowed to have a strong personality. And the person who says this to me goes, oh, well, of course you are. And I said, okay, then what's the problem? And the answer couldn't come. So this is what I mean by that. What do you know is part of you that you want, that you have, that you are wanting to fully embrace in your life, that someone has made you think you can't have, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, whatever? It's affecting your knees. I have not had problems with my knees for decades because I finally said, I'm allowed to be strong. I'm allowed to be bold. I'm also allowed to be kind. I chose all the words and then said to myself, I'm allowed to be. And then I had to go into, I'm allowed to have. I'm allowed to have more money than my parents ever had. I'm allowed to have a larger house than anyone else in my family. I'm allowed to have only 3 kids. I'm allowed to, all of the choices I've made that I've struggled with, I'm allowed to. Ladies, I invite you to decide what you are allowed to have, to be, to want, and then see what happens. And not just the pain in your knees go away, but if you step into that, I'm allowed, that actually puts you back into the energetic flow that lets people, resources, and money come to you. I'm allowed. I'm allowed to feel safe. I'm allowed to be heard. I'm allowed to be loud. I'm also allowed to be quiet. What are you allowed to do? I would love for you to share in the comments of this video, whether you're watching this on replay or watching it loud, share with us. What are you now realizing that you are allowed to do, to be, to have?